low shrubby kind of tree. Random cactus. It's pretty hot in this picture. You can kind of see my skin glistening with sweat. There's one of the water caches, and these people were basically trying to get PCT hikers to go into their place and spend some money, so they put water out there. It's kind of a nice thing.
Class of 2001.
Yeah. Sunset shot. Getting closer to San Jacinto. That's about 11,000 foot mountain there. This is probably early May. Coulter pine. Look at the size of that pine cone there. It's just amazing. And they're heavy too. They're like 10 pounds.
Not like hiking all of them.
This is I'm getting up on the ridge line at about 5,000 feet, looking down at the desert right by Palm Springs. I'm up above Palm Springs here. And I'm just walking a ridge line to San Jacinto Peak. This is some trees. We're getting up about 6,000 feet here, and this was known as Cedar Camp. And just, we're so psyched to be in shade. There's my little tarp over there on the left. That was my shelter that I set up probably 15 times the whole trail because it never rained. I just basically slept out most of the time. There's some of the cedar trees in this area. They look like sequoia, you know. Getting closer to San Jacinto. And there's a fog-smog combination kind of rolling up from LA there. Another picture of San Jacinto. There's the trail down there in the bottom left corner. This trail's like blasted into the cliff on this particular ridge line. Is it a what? No, it's not a wildlife. It's just kind of a picture of the trail.
It's like a man.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a marmot or something. Kind of hit snow through this area, so I actually got lost when I was walking through here. Lost the trail anyways, didn't really get lost, but first time we hit snow. Now I'm heading down into Idlewild, which is a nice little mountain town in the San Jacinto Mountains, just outside of LA. There's a little traveler that I'd carried with me for a couple days. I thought it was a zit, and by about the fourth day, it had become more and more painful, and I'm like, man, what is up with this? And one of the guys, Kamayakan, said, well, let me look at it. He's like, man, that ain't a zit, that's a tick. So he was nice enough to yank it out with some tweezers. Nice to document that, you know. It's just the group I was hiking with for this particular time. It was a big tick. I think it had got some nice nourishment for a couple days.
Yeah, he was filled.
Exactly. He had probably doubled in size from the time that I picked him up. It's looking back at Taquit's Peak. It's a big rock climbing area near Idlewild. Pretty famous in Southern California. Yeah, a lot of snow on that peak. That's about an 8,000 foot peak there, maybe 9,000. But it's it's still early May, so at 9,000 feet you still have some snow in Southern California.
Was the snow a water source for you sometimes, or?
No, I never really. Up in the Sierras, you get a lot of snow melt. It was a water source, but I didn't really take any water out of the snow here. This is the I-10 corridor.
That's interesting.
And that's San Gorgonio, 11,500 foot peak up there. And this is a big earthquake fault zone. So if you look at these hillsides, you could actually see where the faults kind of slipped and the hillside's sort of discontinuous in places. But man, it took me 20 miles from where this picture was taken to get down to I-10.
I was going to say, you got to drop all the way down there and go all the way back up.
Exactly. And then by the time I got down there, it was over 100 degrees down there, and man, we were cooking. Just coming down off the north slopes of San Jacinto. Little lizard. Nice enough to let me take his picture. There's nothing else to do but take pictures of flowers here. I saw my first rattlesnake here, actually, but I didn't get a picture of him. Yeah, he might have gotten mad at me or something. Indian paintbrush. There's so many flowers in the desert because it was such a heavy rainfall that year. And here we are at basically at I-10, and that I-10's at about 1,000 feet, and the summit of that peak's at about 11. So that's about 2 vertical miles above where we're at right now is the summit of that peak. Pretty amazing. You never think something like that's in Southern California.
Right.
Rose, you probably know this area pretty well.
Yeah, I was like 20 minutes from where you were.
Yeah.
You grew up there, Rose, or?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
There's some of the windmill that is all through Southern California, even all the way up into the Sierras. There are windmills through various sections. That's Scalpel walking up the trail there. This area was really pretty. It was really remote. I mean, there was just nothing back here, and it was so close to LA. It was just kind of funny. So we were kind of soaking our feet. It's pretty pleasurable to do that after just walking in that intense heat for so long.
What do you work? How many miles a day do you think you do?
Right now, I'm probably doing like low 20s.
Yeah.
We're at about 250 miles in right here, and I pretty much kept up that maybe mid 20s by the time I got to the Sierras, and then 20s through the Sierras, and then 30s after the Sierras.
The group you're with, everybody pretty much got the same
Yeah,
pace?
we're all pretty much walking the same. And here we are kind of hanging out under a shade tree. That's kind of what we did. We got up early, started walking by sunrise, walked for 4 or 5 hours until it got unbearably hot, and then we'd either set up our tarps or find a shade tree if there was one and hang out for 4 or 5 hours, and then get up and walk another 3 or 4 hours into evening and set up camp and get up the next day and do it all over again. It's kind of fun hanging out and just relaxing every day, doing the siesta thing. There's White Root. That's San Gorgonio. This area kind of almost felt like Colorado, just tree-lined peaks, and it's beautiful. This is right before Big Bear City. We're probably about 260, 70 miles in here. What'd you say?
So the clouds were nice enough to come in for you.
Yeah.
Nice shot.
Yeah.
There's the moon.
And moonrise, that was the morning shot. And that's looking back at San Jacinto, getting far away from there. Made some elevation onto the I-10 corridor. It's just really pretty. Yeah, it's just something about the rocks and the red there. It's almost like a little landscape designed by nature. Found a swing by the trail, so we thought we'd
Just randomly know it?
randomly. I mean, I don't even know why I was there, but it just was, it sort of felt like the thing to do. We couldn't walk by a swing.
Somebody's carrying a swing. I gotta get rid of this swing.
Yeah.
This is way too heavy.
Now it's starting to look a little hairier.
Yeah, things are getting a little more rough around the edges here. This is the Mojave Desert behind me. There's a better shot of it. And you can see we're walking on ridge lines above the Mojave, and that's pretty much for the next 100 miles, that's what we do, is walk on ridge lines above the Mojave. And then we drop down into it and to cross it, basically, to get to the Sierras. And you can see some Joshua tree type trees that are starting to show up because we're near the Mojave, which is a type of tree that grows in the Mojave. Here we are hitching into Big Bear City. That's Eric Weiss, hilarious Tennessee fellow, G.I. Jane. Here we are in Big Bear. A rare welcome from a town for PCT hikers. Most towns sort of, who are these vagrants walking through but this particular town, saw the opportunity to make some money off PCT hikers by selling us some food. So they're like, hey, come on in, because they know we spend big money in grocery stores. And we sure did. This is the first rain we got on the trail. I was almost 300 miles in here, and it rained for a good 2 or 3 hours this day.
Now, is that a lake or a river?
That's a lake right by Big Bear City. It's a dammed lake, actually. It's not a natural lake, but. And this is just some lupine. We're all through this area. And lupine, it's just, if you look at this plant, man, it's like so well adapted to the desert. If you look at the center of the petals, there's a raindrop. So like those petals like catch the raindrops and funnel them right to the center, and then they hold them there for like hours after it stopped raining and slowly absorb the water. It's just incredible design. Like somebody's intelligent out there who's making this all up.
There is intelligence on Earth.
Yeah, yeah. This is just a burned out area.